All right, so you start. What's your Titans?
Titans. So I got. Let's see. I lost my thing for a second there. So I got Jonnu Smith finishes as his top 8 tight end.
That's a pretty good one.
And
I don't know.
I think they just don't have like anybody else to throw to. Like he's super athletic. This is the first time he's got full time opportunity too. So
Yeah, and Tannehill definitely like uses the tight end, but I don't know. He's definitely a sleeper pick, like a late round guy.
Mm-hmm. Like Adam Humphries, I think is somebody that also could have value, but like they don't use the slot.
Yeah. So, I really like AJ Brown, but I just wish he could catch more balls. Like if he could turn into Calvin Johnson, that dude is amazing.
He should, but like then his yards per reception are going to go down this year too, because like it was 20.2 last year, and it was like 9 yards after the catch or something ridiculous. Like nobody else has like ever like repeated that.
Yeah, he needs, in order to like keep value with where he's being drafted, he definitely needs to catch like way more balls, and that team just wants to run. I have Henry not a top 10 just because I just don't like Henry. I don't know why. Even after like every year after year, I've like been like, I'm not taking Henry, and he's proved me wrong like 2 years in a row. But he just makes me nervous. Like his running style doesn't catch many balls. You know, he cut like 20 or something last year.
Well, if the touchdowns go down, like if he doesn't have as many rushing touchdowns, then like he'll be like right on the border if he doesn't get as many touchdowns.
Yeah, what he had like 16 or 17 last year, like
16 rushing touchdowns or something last year.
Yeah, it's like if that offense like doesn't go, you know,
like he might have
really suffer.
But like you can't predict like anybody really have 16 rushing touchdowns, so it's like he could have 10 and like say he has 1,500 yards and like 10 rushing touchdowns and catches 24 balls and like
he's still probably a top 10 if he gets 10, but
I'd have to do. Let me see if I can do the math on it real quick. So that'd be 150 plus. Yeah, he probably. So if he gets 10, so if he gets like 1,500 yards, 10 touchdowns, like 24 catches, like 200 yards receiving, and like 2 receiving touchdowns, he still finishes probably like running back 8.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. He's one of those guys for me that just scares me every year. But yeah, plus, it's funny. These are bold, but I didn't know like how, you can't go so bold that you don't actually believe it could happen.
Yeah, well, like with bold, you kind of gotta be like, there's a reality where it happens,
right?
But it doesn't have to be like guaranteed to happen either. It's like Jonnu Smith could like only catch 40 balls and like have 600 yards receiving and 4 touchdowns, like, and then it's like tight end 15 probably.
Yeah, which if you play the matchups, he could still be like a guy to keep on your radar, Yeah,
he's just like super athletic. He had that one run where they put him in the backfield and he ran for like 26 yards too.
Yeah, he's a beast. And he was behind Walker for a while, so
yeah, for forever.
It was like new.
Well, and he's like in that tight end age breakout season too.
Right. All right, what do you got for the Texans?
Will Fuller finishes as a top 15 wide receiver.
Okay.
Well, I probably should put stays healthy and finishes a top 15 wide receiver. So last year,
that's pretty key.
He had the best like game for a wide receiver in like 8 years or something like crazy like that. Where he played against the Falcons, he had like 14 catches, 220 some yards, and 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
And then he had like one other good week, and he finished as wide receiver 53, and he didn't play like, I can't even remember how many games it was now, like 6 games, and then there was a couple of games where he just kind of went out there, but he wasn't really healthy. And let's just say, like, you don't have that one big boom game all the time, but if he has it like every other week, he could finish it. Like when even when he's been on the field with Hopkins, he still averaged like 7 targets a game, and now Hopkins is averaging 150 targets and they're just gone. Like Cooks is going to come in and Cooks is going to get like say he gets 110, you still get 40 more targets to pass around.
Right. Yeah, I actually mine was that Brandon Cooks will be the top target, so it conflicts with yours completely.
It just depends. Like it's both. It's just like it just depends on who Watson targets. But I know Watson on Twitter, he was hyping up Fuller. He's like, yeah, he's gonna be like wide receiver 1 this year. But
they
like,
gotta figure out something.
If you look back in the season, I can't remember if it was 2 or 3 years ago now, but when Will Fuller tore his ACL,
yeah,
he was actually on pace. Like he's on pace to probably be like a wide receiver, like probably wide receiver 20, wide receiver 22 in there.
Right.
But then he was running in for a touchdown against Miami. The Miami DB, like, he wasn't going to tackle him before the end zone. He tackle him, lands on his knee, tears his ACL.
Yeah.
I can't, if I remember correctly, I think Fuller missed like the first 2 games that year. Then like he had like 8 games where he was just like awesome.
Yeah, I remember he was like a waiver wire target, and if you got him, you won like several weeks after that. Yeah. He was just blowing the top off the defense every week. He'd catch like 3 or 4 balls, but it'd be for like over 100 and a score.
Mm-hmm. I know the first year Watson started, Fuller like wasn't owned anywhere, and I picked him up, and he had he had no catches, but like he had like 12 catches for like 8 touchdowns or something ridiculous.
Yeah, I remember like other analysts talking about it's just not feasible to score that much.
Yeah, but I think if I remember right, he dropped like 2 or 3 touchdowns last year. And if you look at like just that one game, it was like, I'm trying to remember exactly, it was like probably like 25% of his catches, like a fifth of his yards, and like all his touchdowns just in one game.
Right.
So it's like somebody's going to be productive in the offense. It just depends on who.
That's the one thing that, not to hop teams, but that scares me about Amari Cooper is I feel like he's very like that. It's like he'll win you the week, and then the next week he'll have like 20 yards. You're like, man, what the hell? He got better when he went to Dallas, but when he was on the Raiders, that was like his whole game was like you didn't know when to start him.
He got better the first year he went to Dallas. Then last year he was kind of hit or miss again.
Yeah. I think they just paid him so much money, though, that I like him. All right, what do you got? I also have David Johnson's top 15 guy, which I know you disagree with because we went back and forth on that the other day. But
like
I just don't think they got to use him,
like,
man.
You can't top 15. Like, I think he's going to use him, but then like he's going to get hurt because they use him too.
We'll see. I hope he does something just because they traded away like arguably the best wide receiver in the game. I don't get it, but
yeah. And what's worse is they traded him for Johnson. They took on his contract instead of just giving the Hopkins an extension, and then they got the 2nd round pick, and then they just kind of wasted it on Ross Blacklock.
Yeah, and then they got Cooks, and now they're gonna have to pay him soon too. So it's like you should just pay.
Cooks he's already paid.
Is he locked in?
Like, yeah, I think this is the last year of his deal though. But then they gave Randall Cobb like $8 million a year for 3 years too.
Yeah, and he might be washed up in my opinion. But
no, like he had a good year last year. Like he's a decent slot receiver, but like I don't know how much this offense actually is going to use the slot.
Right.
Like in the past, they just use because they were moving Hopkins in the slot a lot just to like try to not get the outside corner on him, and then they throw like a little 8-yard hitch to him all the time.
Yeah, it's definitely like an interesting offense.
It's like Watson. I don't know. It's weird this year because I feel like Watson's gonna do something, but then it's like who else does something?
Right. All right. What do you got for Jags?
Tyler Eifert finishes the year with 10 touchdowns.
That's pretty bold.
I'm going to bring up his. Let me see if I can bring up his stats too, because he had the 1 year where he had like 13 or something like that. But he's playing with John Gruden's offensive coordinator there now, and Eifert played with him for like the first year or two. Eifert was actually pretty good in the red zone last year, too, but like.
He's always been good when he played. He's just back problems.
Well, he's just been like he's finally healthy again. Like he played all the games last year. But mainly like why I'm saying this is they don't got nobody to throw the ball to in the red zone. Besides, like it's gonna be him and DJ Chark. Like nobody else is a red zone target. So it's just like either Chark gets like 12 touchdowns or like I don't like it's not. This is why it's bold. Like Eifert had 13 in 2015 touchdowns, but
I think he could do it. He's always been like the red zone guy.
yeah, he's a big guy, but like his problem now, like he can't run.
Yeah. Man, that's like watching Jimmy Graham now. You're like, you can't even believe that that's Jimmy Graham.
Well, Jimmy Graham can't block to start with, so but the Bears gave him $9 million this year for some reason.
I know, and they keep doing that with tight end. But I mean, as a guy from Detroit, I don't even like talking about tight ends because
they had like 10 tight ends at one point.
I put that Fournette is out of the top 24 and basically a bust at his ADP, just because I feel like that team is. I think Chris Thompson could have some value by the end of the year, just because he's worked with them before, the coaching staff, and Fournette's like asking for trades and no one wants him anyway.
Yeah, I think Fournette gets traded eventually, but like they're gonna run him in the ground. They're gonna try to like make him seem like he's good for a little while, and then like try to trade him like for a 4th-round pick or 5th-round pick or something.
I feel like they floated that and everyone was like, we're good.
Well, that's like they kind of like did it at the wrong time though. I feel like, but like if somebody gets hurt, they'll probably get like a 5th-round pick for him. So
yeah, with running backs, you got to kind of wait till there's like that team that's really needy.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of who would even be a good example. Like if somebody got hurt.
Well, Jai kept bouncing around to teams that would like someone get hurt and then they'd sign a Jai, or Carlos Hyde was the same way.
Yeah, well, Carlos Hyde just sucks.
He's been oddly good last year. Like he was usable. He wasn't great, but he was like if you needed a bye week fill in, he could get you like 8-9 points.
But you always started him on the wrong week. Like if you had him, like you'd have him the week where he ran 12 times for 30 yards. Like if you start him, but then the next week he'd run for like 100 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah, he was frustrating. I remember guys would pick him up, start him, and drop him because he'd be like, "Oh, he got 3 points."
Yeah. I don't know. I like Gardner this year because he's got more weapons. And I think they're gonna have to throw the ball more. And I think Jay Gruden like got more out of Andy Dalton than they should have. So right. I think he can do the same with Minshew.
I feel like Minshew's like it's a make or break year too. Like if they do horrible, they'll probably draft a quarterback high up.
Well, it just kind of depends on him. Like if they suck and he plays good, then do you keep him or not? Like
I don't know. He's such a late round guy that like I could see them like their defense is supposed to be horrible. So
or like if they get the first pick, maybe they take Trevor Lawrence and then they just trade him to somebody else if he plays good.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought was like they're either gonna tank and take Lawrence or someone else right there early, or Minshew's he's gonna have to have a great season just because that team's defense they're gonna be chasing.
But then it's like, what do you do if they go like 6-10?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, that's like the Lions special, you know. Sit at 8-8 for 20 years straight.
Yeah, and then you got then they hired Jim Caldwell and he has like 3 winning seasons and you fire him.
Yep. All right, what'd you put for
the playoffs for 1 year?
Yeah, I don't know if I love Caldwell, but like comparative, it's
like Caldwell though. Like he's a good coach. He's got fired real crappy 2 times because the 1 year with the Colts when Peyton Manning didn't play all year and they went 2-14 and he got fired.
Right. Was he a fill-in that year though?
No.
Wasn't that when someone had cancer or something?
No, that was afterwards.
I got you. So what's your Colts take?
Let me go back to that page. Colts. Michael Pittman Jr. outscores T.Y. Hilton.
Ooh, that's bold. I like that one though.
Yeah,
I could see it.
Well, Philip Rivers is always like throwing to the bigger wide receivers, whether Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, back in the day Vincent Jackson.
Yeah.
And I think Pittman Jr. He's really polished as a wide receiver. Like he can come into the NFL, like he'll be decent. And I think Ty like he's already hurt. He was hurt half of last year, so.
Yeah. I definitely thought that Ty could be slightly a value this year though, just because he dropped so much. Like if he could stay healthy, we'll see. I think he's a great route runner, but he's been hurt for consecutively for a while.
Yeah, I think you gotta take like Ty like you have to take him at like wide receiver 32 would be like worth it, like just to take that risk.
Right.
You're
That's the funny thing about fantasy, though. You can be like, oh, I hate this guy. Like, I don't like Derrick Henry, but if he's in like the third, fourth round, like, of course I'm going to take him. There's like, it's just all about where you got to take him.
Mm-hmm. It was like for me, I don't like Melvin Gordon at all this year.
Right.
I'm like, but if he's there in the 6th round, I'd take him.
Right. Yeah. It's the same here. It's like you hit a certain point and there's not even any starters left. Like Jordan Howard's like that guy where you're like, oh, there's no starters left except Jordan Howard. You might as well just take him. Mm-hmm. I had Taylor takes over by week 4 and is RB1 moving forward. It's not that bold, especially after I took him last night. But
so like running back number 1 overall or just an RB1?
Yeah, just a top 12 guy. I wouldn't say RB1. That would be crazy. But I think like with that line, if Rivers uses him like he used Gordon, he could definitely be like top 5 guy going forward from that point.
Yeah. I think what hurts them is they play like a bunch of crappy teams right away.
Yeah.
So, like they're still gonna be like, here, Marlon Mack, you have 12 carries.
We'll see. I know they were just saying that like Mack's still the starter and all this stuff, but I feel like they're gonna give Taylor some carries just because they took him so early, and I feel like just the talent of Taylor is gonna like the average yards per carry is gonna be in his favor so much that they're gonna be stupid to not make the switch.
Well, you look at Mack last year and like he had a good season, but like when you played behind that offensive line, like he really wasn't that good.
Yeah, like you watch the plays and like the holes are just huge. That line is like scary. They've become almost like the new like the Cowboys were a few years back, where it's just like you can't mess with that O-line.
I don't know, but like I'm trying to think. Maybe they just like try to make Marlon Mack look good and then trade him off too.
Hey, that's possible.
If somebody gets hurt.
I feel like running back is like the worst position to play in football because they just every year there's like studs coming out. They just seem so replaceable and they're not getting paid like nearly. McCaffrey will get paid and like the crazy guys will get paid. But if you're the middle of the road, teams just use you until you break.
Nobody's getting a second contract, or it's like Melvin Gordon where you got like a 2-year deal for like $8 million a year.
Yeah, and then look at like wide receiver, they're getting paid huge bucks now. I mean, the game's changing in that direction though. You basically have to be a running back and a wide receiver to get paid.
You had to be McCaffrey,
right?
It's like $16 million a year, but like his first 3 years. Like the only wide receiver. So like comparing him to wide receivers, I think he's like 3rd all time in catches, like in his first 3 years, and he's a running back. Like,
yeah, that's crazy.
I think it was like the only people that have more catches than him in like the first 3 years is Michael Thomas, and I can't remember who the other one was.
That's a crazy stat. I know that like if you just took his receiving last year, he would have been like wide receiver 8 or something like. Plus the rushing, you're like, oh god.
Yeah, I just wonder like how he does this year too.
I obviously everyone it's the consensus number 1, but it's so hard to repeat that like it makes you nervous almost.
Well, I think like he'll be number 1 again, but it's just like he won't be as good. Even though he's got a better quarterback.
Right. You would think it could get better, but last year that was their whole plan was like McCaffrey.
Just dump it off.